One. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Nerds of Legend. I am Ben. Next to me is Joel, and below the both of us is Brendan. This week we're going to be talking about. I said it in the title, but we've been calling it the bangability of Freyja, or basically why everybody wants to kidnap her all the time, because that's like so many Norse myths. Other than that, you'll be able to catch our first episode of our first official episode of our new Dungeons and Dragons campaign on Thursday, where we'll be delving into the world of Freyja. We had our session 0 last week and had a lot of fun, but now this is the time where the characters actually get to talk to each other instead of just their own little mini arcs. So we're really excited about it. Will's doing a great job, even after just before we even started, he was doing a great job, and we're really excited about that. And then we'll be covering the book Legendborn on Monday, and I can't remember the name of the author, by Tracy Dion. Not a huge fan so far, but I am remaining open-minded.
That was a very visible groan.
So with that, with that,
Ben has trouble saying Y and A in combination with that gagging. So
with anything,
yep.
Yeah, it's just like that's for Monday. We'll talk about that on Monday.
Save the goodies for Monday.
So
Tuesday, Monday's Labor Day, so
we'll probably do Tuesday then. So.
Yeah, we have to see. I don't have any plans for Labor Day, but except for do nothing, which is what all Americans do.
It's definitely not seeing you fucks.
Start.
All right, with that, those are our announcements. Joel, why don't you dive right in?
All right, due to a week that's been absolute chaos, this was going to be a little less structured, sadly. For anybody who has listened to any of our episodes, Freyja was usually the target of most Jotuns, or that would come in and want anything to do with any of them. I'm going to build you a wall, you give me Freyja. You steal Thor's hammer, you can marry Freyja. It's, I need you to create some items, cool. I want to marry Freyja, every one of them. And so while researching these, we started asking ourselves, what the hell is going on that everybody is trying to get with her?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I nailed it. Right when I started compiling her description. Her description is she is greedy and lascivious.
Lascivious?
Yeah.
There you go. God, I'm glad you have a better vocabulary than I do.
Yeah.
She cries tears of gold.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much not just gold, red gold. I think that's it. We found out why everybody wants her. She cries.
Also, her hair's made of gold, courtesy of Loki.
Huh?
Her hair's made of gold, courtesy of Loki.
Yeah, no, that's Sif.
Oh, that's Sif. Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Confusing my female Norse goddesses. My bad.
It's portrayed covered in gemstones, and with long golden hair, and wearing a cloak of falcon feathers and a boar's headdress, which is gross. She's the goddess of fertility, love, battle, and death. Her sacred animal was a pig, and she rode on a golden boar or in a chariot pulled by 2 cats. She oversees Folkvanger, which is the Vanir honored dead hall for the honored dead.
Okay, so it's their analog to Valhalla then.
Yeah.
Yes. She is unlike all the gods we've talked about so far. She is not an Aesir. She is a Vanir. However, she is believed to have taught them
Sather. She taught them the Sather.
Craft.
Yeah. The magic, Norse magic stuff.
Depending on who you talk to, some people are like, that's cool. Others are like, that dirty bitch. What was she thinking?
Yeah.
Um,
I'm also seeing that she is considered the goddess of material possessions and beauty. So
yeah, she's essentially She's essentially like an analog for Aphrodite.
yeah,
Like if you take Aphrodite and Freyja and kind of put them together, they're pretty much the same thing.
yeah,
You know, do you want it? It's part of Freyja, and that's why she is pretty much the reason why everybody's after her. Is she is essentially the personification of I want that, and so everybody looks at her and is like I want that. And Ben and I were talking this morning, and it's interesting as how first off, the more you dig into these stories, the more you start just realizing just how much the ancient Norse drank, because their stories are a lot like, so let me tell you what, this wood woman, she cries gold. And they're like, oh, that's a pretty desirable woman. But it's just, their gods personify things. Like they personify what, the men personify what was necessary in the time. It was more of a strength-based society. Freyja was, obviously the most desirable thing that you could get your hands on, and she personified all of that, even to the point of wearing like a boar headdress, which probably is not hot today, but probably 7th century.
Well, that's probably more of a thing of her connection with the like magic stuff as opposed to her like a reflection of her beauty.
Well, boars are also dangerous and a food source. Like,
yeah,
like everybody thinks like pigs that like if you've ever, I'm pretty sure Ben's seen it, being right in the middle of nowhere like myself. But when you see a pig, they're big as fuck. Like pigs are like you
think of like Babe, like from like or whatever, and then you like see one, you're like, oh, this thing's like the size of a small car.
Everybody thinks like a pig is like. I remember the first time I saw a pig. I think I was like 8, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like this thing is.
I could ride this into battle.
Yeah, literally, could ride it into battle. Like, and then you think like now you give it tusks and make it crazy.
Yeah, the context of pigs in relation to the Vanir, they were considered an important symbol because they were used in their sacrificial practices.
Yeah.
So there are multiple names for Freyja, and one of them was the Sow, and then her brother, her brother Freyr was also associated with pigs. I don't know if it's it's not like elephants in Indian mythology because they were sacrificed. I think it was their purity or their vitality. There was an association with the Vanir.
Well, I mean, like the pigs can have like I think they can have like. It's not a litter, but they reproduce a lot faster than cows and like sheep do. So it's when you could have like 8 piglets at a time, like every 3 months, like, yeah, it's a lot easier to like sacrifice a pig than it is to give up, like a sheep.
Yeah, we see more and more every week. We see historical and geographical limitations relating to this mythology, and yeah.
Well, and they're a lot hardier, and they don't require as much grazing land, I think, as sheep do. So like,
have 2 to 3 litters of 8 to 12 piglets a year. One pig can produce up to 36 piglets a year.
They just need some mud to roll around in.
Yeah,
so
they can't sweat.
Yeah, interesting.
It is weird that like now you go the further up north you go, you get more. Like the symbol of fertility is a pig, because like 36 one pig producing 36 piglets is insane.
Yeah,
and so I mean, like to think that's your source of vitality. I mean, it makes sense. Not only in a place where you need to feed somebody, and like a full pig can be 800 pounds. Like they're huge.
And I think they're like full sized within like a very short period of time.
Yeah, they go very very fast. And so you think about it, like you've got people that are eating, and the Norse are massive people. Like at least that the Vikings are very big, and and like a sheep only has 1 at a time, right? Maybe 2, if you're really kicking them out.
Yeah, I think it's 2 to 4. I'm not sure though.
Lambs? I don't. I think it's just. I thought it was just one.
I don't know.
But anyway,
Moving on.
moving on. Yeah. So
Moving on from animal husbandry.
yeah, here's our next episode.
Welcome to Farmer's a Legend.
The farmer's a legend. You've never been to a farm.
Yes, he's been to my family farm.
I've been to...
No, you haven't. Shut up.
Never happened.
Never happened. You live in a technocracy. Just you and all of your nerds.
This isn't even real. We're plugged into the Matrix.
No, but then so according to the Poetic Edda, Freyja has that recounts a lot of the stories of Freyja and pretty much the viewing in the beginning of Freyja. The Volspa contains a stanza that refers to Freyja as Ooze Girl because her husband's name is Or. And in the beginning, she really didn't even have that much of a personality. She just became the wife of Or. But then as the story progresses and she maintains, she becomes more of a person of interest. She becomes more defined as a character. It was when she became, first she was like, this is Or and his super hot wife, Freyja, and she does stuff. And then Or, I have really not found a whole lot of what her husband does. Other than now it seems like as history is remembered. And he kind of just wanders off and upsets Freyja. That's what I've found so far. But as the legends progress and she becomes more defined as this object of desirability, she gets into becoming more clear of what she represents. And there's also some interesting points too. It seems like every single instance in where somebody is trying to get involved with Freyja, Loki's instigating it. And it's funny. In the poem Loksena, Loki accuses every woman in attendance. It's every Asgardian female. That they're all whores. That they're all actually you all sleep around. I can't believe it.
You've all fucked with everyone else except me. Loki was an incel.
He was. Loki sounds like a super incel right now. He's like, you've touched everyone's dick but mine. And Freyja's response is like, that is true, but how dare you?
Yeah.
It seems like after this attempt, according to the Poetic Edda, it sounds like following this, where Loki's like, nobody touches my penis. He put out a lot of juice in order to really make sure that she is as humiliated as often as possible. And they kind of go back with this tit for tat thing. Like he'll be like, hey, she's loose. She'll touch your penis. Do me a favor. Like giving Thor's hammer to Throk, who is like, keep this and you can marry Freyja. And that leads to the story of Thor dressing up like Freyja and embarrassing everybody by being just not womanly. Or the story of let's let this dude build our walls in Asgard. He can marry Freyja, and then leading to Freyja refusing, and then having to go off and Loki having to go off and father all the monsters of Ragnarok. Or in order to get you want a really cool piece of jewelry, cool, you've got to marry all these dwarfs for one day at a time.
Oh yeah,
and that's got her.
Yeah, basically Loki tempted her with the most beautiful necklace ever fabricated, but the price of which was that she had to bone each of the dwarves for a day. Yeah.
No deal.
I won't do them, but I'll marry him. And so she marries him for exactly one day at a time.
Not in the book I read. She boned them all, and Loki made fun of her for it.
The funny thing is, she owned it. But then she owned it. She's like, you sleep around. He's like, of course I do. but not with you. And he's like, wow, that's even more humiliating than the town whore won't touch my penis.
I think we know why Loki would polymorph so often.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to get laid when I'm wild foul.
Yeah. See, I look at it more like, you want to touch my penis? No. And then he like turns into, he's like, how about now? No. How about now? No. Like,
I will find the proper combination.
I will find that. Yeah, right. He's just mix and matching until she's like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
It is funny though, because it's like, it seems to be the go-to.
Mm-hmm.
Like the number one motivator. And it never turns out well at all. And she's the goddess of...
Well, so she's also the... She didn't get kidnapped this time, but the giant who built the walls around Asgard, his price for building them the wall was Freyja's hand in marriage.
Everybody's like super boned up about getting her.
And it's just like... I mean, it's to be fair, I was like, if her like whole thing was like she's the goddess of beauty, fertility, and love, like it kind of makes sense. I feel like in Greek and Roman myths that was going around with Aphrodite a lot too. Like everyone's always like, I want her attention, please.
Yeah, Aphrodite seems a lot, but I don't know why though. But like Aphrodite seems a lot looser than Freyja, like for some reason.
Well, because she's simultaneously the god of like she's just got Aphrodite's just got love and beauty, but like Freyja's got like magic, and like she's also the god of like magic and like fertility and like material possessions and all of it wrapped up in one thing instead of just like those couple things.
But she's still the go-to. Like no matter what anybody, they don't even try to negotiate for anything else. It's like the go-to.
Mm-hmm.
Like I imagine if any of these characters are real.
Yeah.
It's like anytime somebody comes to the door of Asgard being like, hey, I've got something for sale. Freyja's just like, God fucking damn it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. She's like, I hate this shit. So, yeah.
Hmm.
What do you got anything?
Oh, you mentioned that you couldn't find much on Freyr, but I just found a thing.
No, her husband, Or.
Oh, Other. Yeah.
Got a shitload of stuff.
Oh, no, okay, never mind then. I'm reading a thing it's supposed that Other might have also actually been Odin.
That would make sense.
And just like linguistic drift kind of like separated them out.
Yeah. The funny thing is like when you look at the stuff, it's
basically like some of this stuff is like this is just like what this one Icelandic monk was able to put together like 1,000 years later. So like we don't know how much is lost of this sort of like thing, and just like
an awful lot is yes-anded into something.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it is. She does. Again, I apologize. It was chaotic week, so I would have had more put together for this, but everything didn't want me to do this episode.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that though, like with her beloved Falcon cloak, how often Loki gets to borrow it though.
All the time. And then he would fuck her over immediately. Like I really, for the life of me, cannot understand how they kept him around. Like literally putting up with Loki's shit is the reason everything went to shit. And they're like, he's a trickster guy.
He's like that one friend.
That's horrible.
He's like that one friend that's like, he can be an asshole sometimes, but like he's really funny and he's really fun at parties, so you keep him around.
I don't know. I don't really think somebody tricking you into a gangbang of a bunch of giants is like that sounds like more of that doesn't sound like a trick.
Well, but then he fixes it, because then he like fixes it at the end. He's like, it's just a joke, bro. I'll fix it. And then he fixes it. So it's like,
yeah, the joke of killing Balder.
Yeah. Except for that one. That's the one that got him in like chained to under a waterfall, getting constantly blinded by a serpent, though. So, to be fair, that's the point where he finally got his comeuppance. Anything before that, he fixed his mistakes. That's the one where he fucked up.
Yeah, no, I don't. It's Brisingamen. This is Brisingamen is what her necklace is. The one that she had to go and bang a whole bunch of dudes. So it's just a lot of the prose Edda writes through. It gives her a description of Folkvanger, which is like if Valhalla was like soaked in weed smoke, that would be what Folkvanger is. It seems like a much more low-key place.
Is it? Because it seems like between folk, like, it doesn't matter, like, kind of like which one you end up with. It's like either way you're like an honored warrior. It's just like Freyja gets half.
Yeah, Folkvanger is a meadow or field ruled over by Freyja, where half of those that die in combat go after death. And I think there's not a whole lot that I found on it, but it seems like there was a common saying where a world-weary woman would die that she would declare, "I will never taste food again until they dine with Freyja." So I think maybe it was like a thing where like men go to Valhalla and women go to Folkvanger.
There's also a thing I think I saw one time where like women who died in childbirth got to go to Folkvanger as well, because that's still like warrior.
That's more than most men will ever do.
Yeah.
I mean, witnessing a child being born, you're like, holy fuck!
Yeah.
I thought my wife was awesome, and then when I watched the baby actually come out, I was like, that is the single most badass thing.
Interesting. So I'm reading a little account, the Solapater, which is where this account of like the whole necklace originates from, and it was written around. Looks like it was written in like the 13th century by like some like
also by Snorri Sturluson.
No, by some Christian monks, and it's believed that basically it was written as a smear piece to make Norse pagan gods look bad.
I'm really thinking that's starting to be the case, because the more I dig into it, like a lot of it is like, I would kill for somebody from Norway who's like, oh yeah, we pass these stories down forever. Because a lot of them really, as we try to dig deeper in a lot of these, a lot of them really just seem to be phoned in.
Right.
I'm like, wow, this is...
Well, there aren't a whole lot of primary sources of it,
What does historical Christianity seem to do really well? Smear campaigns. They are incredible at it.
Yeah.
We're good at two things: converting, talking shit. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yeah, apparently in Norse culture, well, I'll start with what I know of Mexican culture. In Spanish, there's albures, or sexual euphemisms, or they don't even need to be sexual. They're just dirty euphemisms. In Norse culture, there's flyting or flitting, which is a contest of insulting the other person, but you have to do it in verse.
Yeah, it's rap battles. Ancient rap battles.
Yeah, and Loki.
The origin of rap battles was by the whitest people known to man.
Apparently, and Loki was renowned for his ability to do this, to insult in verse.
Oh, yeah. You remember reading that as well, that Loki is...
That means it's an art form and a science to these people.
Yeah, I mean, even his like note in the Poetic Edda where like Loki got drunk and he goes, "Be silent, Freyja, for fully I know thee. Sinless thou art not thyself. Of the gods and elves who are gathered here, each one as thy lover has lain." Like, fuck off. You a hoe.
You a hoe. In the background, he's got all of his friends dancing around, be like,
"Oh,
oh shit!"
Freyja, verily, thine art for the streets.
And again, this is like probably again, we're looking at the lens through the Poetic Edda. Like, this is written by a monk dude. This is like, the women in, it seems like the women in Norse and Germanic societies were judged more harshly than men for their perceived sexual improprieties. So, like, yeah, it's like, yeah, like, Freyja laid with all these guys, but the guys did it in return. Yeah. So who's the worst one? You know, like, you know, yeah, blah. Anyway, it's a fun one. Let's see. You got anything, Brennan?
Yeah, I'm looking at stories that involve Freyja. She has many names that are attributed to her. Freyja. I mean, it's believed that she's like the origin of like where the Friday came from. Oh yeah, because
that was Fry's Day. I thought that was Fry's Day.
Thor's
I'm
Day.
Seeing multiple.
Yeah.
Wednesday was Wotan or
Odin's Day. Tuesday was Tyr's Day.
Yeah, Tyr, the god of war, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of gods of war. I do like this one. There is the story of Hrungnir.
Hrungnir.
It's
yeah, that one sounds convincing. I'll stick with Ben on this one.
What one?
Hrungnir.
Yeah, that sounds better. And this is another one that involves Freyja. Hrungnir comes into Asgard and challenges Odin to a contest. And the wager is you have to kill, if the loser has to kill his steed. So it's Sleipnir versus being faster than Hrungnir's steed Golfaxi. So it's like, I bet my horse is faster than yours. And they get in there, and of course Sleipnir wins. And so now you've got Sleipnir wins, so Golfax has to be killed. And he does it, of course, because they're super okay with killing their own shit. And then he doesn't leave. Instead of leaving, he decides to get shit-faced. And he gets shit-faced, then starts making stuff that he's going to move Valhalla to Jotunheim. He's going to bury Asgard, kill all the gods with the exception of Freyja and Sif because they're hot. They're going to come home with him. And Freyja is the only one. And he's like, bring me more drink. And all the gods are like, no, fuck that. And Freyja's like, I got you. And she brings him more booze. And then after he gets really hammered, she calls for Thor. And Thor just comes in and kills him. End of story.
Wow.
And I'm like, and Thor's like, why did he kill him? Because Freyja was serving him booze like a commoner.
Oh, because she was like serving him, even though she was like the lady.
Yeah, like again, it's another one of those things that doesn't make any sense. Like, these are just they don't. I read. They sound disjointed because the stories are disjointed. There is no like. There's no real way that I was able to put into like a cohesive narrative what she does. It's just like a bunch of yes and stories. It's like, and then what happened? Then she.
I would argue that's probably because in like the Norse mythology stuff, it's a much more male centered culture at the time. So like.
Yeah,
Freyja's the prize to be won, or the thing that's being fought for most of the time, as opposed to the like she's never the hero of any of these stories. She's like the thing that like is being fought for. So that's probably why like it's very disjointed history. That's why it's easier to follow like stuff like Thor or Odin or Loki.
Speaking to that, there are, I'd say, at least half of the depictions of Freyja visually that I'm seeing, she is topless.
Oh, yeah, she got her boobs out a lot.
Or completely naked.
Yeah.
So, it's funny you said that, because I just scrolled up on my notes.
Yeah, that's male. That's male gaze. That's objectification for sure.
Yeah.
It's funny as you're saying it. I've got a page pulled up, and as you're saying, she's portrayed as topless. I rolled into the Anders Zorn Freyja from 1901, where she's butt ass naked, just laying there, spread eagle. I guess it's like really
Like centerfold. Jeez.
Yeah, it is exactly like a centerfold. There is nothing beautiful about this. This is pretty much just like a drunken, can I get it? You want
very lascivious.
Yeah, literally. She's just sitting there with her cooter out, being like, you want it? Come for it. You know?
How ribald.
Yeah. But, it's... I think that's the observation that makes the most sense, is she embodies desire. Like, she embodies all of the things that you could want. You know, like Ben brought up with, you know, her animal is the boar. It's a creature that is food, and it is a creature that can be created. You can use for clothing. You could pick. They have a lot of uses. She literally cries money. So I mean, like, there's that. She's beautiful. According to this picture, she's thick. According to the painting, she got a lot going on. And she's the embodiment of all that you know you would desire at the time. A person that brings food and security, and you know, is an arm candy trophy. Why wouldn't you look for that? And a lot of it does kind of keep her as something that is to be possessed, as opposed to like a powerful like goddess. And I think when you mentioned that, like, I think of all of the gods, the goddesses of Norse myth, which is you know, the ones that come to mind are Frigg, Sif, Idun, and Freyja, and they all seem to serve a purpose. They all seem to have Idun, you know, her only job is to grow the apples of immortality, you know. Yeah, and then Sif is the wife of Thor. I don't really know anything that she's actually done, other than get her hair cut off and replaced with solid gold by Loki. Not willingly, he cut her hair off and then had to have gold
as a joke, and then otherwise Thor was going to, I think,
kill him. Thor's got only one solution. Thor's got one
hammer, smash.
Yeah,
drink or hammer.
Yeah.
He's like, if I'm not drinking, I must be smashing. Like the OG Incredible Hulk.
I'm starting to wonder if like the hammer actually had like a stein in the top of it, and so it's just like the same thing.
It's hollow. There's just a stopper.
Yeah.
Like the peace pipe like the peace pipe. That was popularized. I don't actually know if that ever was a thing. Like, I don't think they actually smoked tobacco out of a tomahawk. I think that was like a Hollywood thing to just be like, look at how savage they are. They're getting stoned. Wow.
I'm not familiar enough with that to make a comment. So
yeah.
I am not. Well, I mean,
not touching that.
I guarantee you, it'll vary from tribe to tribe and location.
Yeah.
So, like peyote, I don't know if what's in the Southwest would be available on the other side of the continental United States. So maybe it was enjoyed by some tribes and not by others. But what I do know is the Norse had their analog, which was mead, and lots of it.
Yeah, and that apparently was the water was bad because they drank meat all fucking day.
But that's the thing. I wouldn't be surprised if the consumption of alcohol was. I mean, you knew it was sterile. You knew it was safe.
That was how it was in the Middle Ages in England. Why they drank so much is because the water was shit.
Huh.
Yeah,
like, they could not.
The ration for slaves in Egypt who built the pyramids was beer because it was. Yep. You could be made in large vats. It had calorific content, and it wouldn't go bad. The water, they couldn't be as sure. So, I know in like the Northmen and in Vikings, there are a lot of examples of shamans and wise men in Norse culture, at least in popular culture, that take hallucinogens. I don't know if that was native to Norway or Sweden. Perhaps they traded it because it's known that they traded up the Mediterranean and continental Europe and so on. So perhaps they obtained it. But I've seen recent popular culture examples where Vikings are getting stoned. I don't know how accurate that is, but that is something.
Why do you have meetings, Dad?
So I just found an interesting one. This is not necessarily around the mythology, but it's a historical thing. Apparently, there's never been evidence of necessarily like a cult of Freyja per se, but there's a time in Iceland around 1000 CE, right before they had like started a conversion or full conversion to Christianity, where a man, there's a man by the name of Hjalti Skegjesson, who was a supporter of Christianity at the time. He was outlawed for blasphemy from Iceland after calling Freyja a bitch.
Get out.
At a parliament meeting. So there was still like as late as that time in 1000 CE that she was worshipped, at least by that point. So I just read that and I was like, oh, that's actually interesting. No, I told you to wait.
Or worshipped, or at the very least venerated. I highly doubt that there are still Gaelic pagans, or at least in large numbers in Ireland, but Cuchulainn is still shown in bronze. Vercingetorix of the Celts was defeated by Rome. There's a statue of him, I believe, in Paris. So they're still venerated heroes. So I can see that here at least.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting because you can even see Freyja still in like a lot of popular culture stuff. So she's obviously in the Marvel things because apparently we just threw all of the Marvel, all the Norse gods into Marvel comics. But more recently in God of War, she's in there prominently.
It's funny you said this because we're all the suspicion of how it's done by Christian, how it's like kind of like twisted by Christians. I just found this short narrative called the Solar Pater. I'm not even gonna fucking try this anymore.
That's that one I was talking about. Where that's where the origin of that one myth where she just like slept for the necklace.
Okay.
Oh, is there?
There's a second part of it. The chapter 2, Loki, under the service of Odin, found out about Freyja's actions and told Odin. And Odin told Loki to get the necklace and bring it. And Loki said, no one can enter Freyja's bower against her will, so it would not be an easy task. Yet Odin told him not to come back until he found a way to get the necklace. So Loki snuck in, and he transformed himself into a fly, after having trouble to find even the tiniest of entrances, he managed to find a tiny hole at the gable top where he had to squeeze to get into, even as a fly. Having made his way into Freyja's core, Loki looked around to make sure no one was awake, found that Freyja was asleep, landed on her bed, and noticed she was wearing the necklace, clasp turned downward.
And nothing else.
Yeah. Loki turned into a flea, jumped onto Freyja's cheek where he bit her. She stirred, turning, and then he fell asleep. He removed the flea's shape, undid her collar, opened the bower, and left to Odin. The next morning, Freyja awoke, saw that the doors of her bower were open, yet unbroken, and her precious necklace was gone. She had an idea who was responsible. She got dressed and went to Odin. She told Odin of the malice he had allowed against her and the theft of her necklace. She should give her back. Odin said that given how she obtained it, she will never get it back. That is, with one acceptance, she could have it back if she could make 2 kings, themselves ruling 20 kings each, battle one another, cast a spell so that each time one of their number falls in battle, they will spring up and fight again, and that must go on eternally unless a Christian man of a particular stature goes into battle and smites them. Only then will they stay dead.
Interesting.
Agreed. Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, that whole story doesn't make any sense.
That's the one I was talking about. It's a propaganda piece.
They're sitting there being like, "You've sucked so much dick, madame." She's like, "I have sucked dick for this necklace. Disgusting." And then they created the Arthurian legends. Like, essentially, you must create a King Arthur. Oh, okay. Like, it's the.
Oh, is that it's suggesting that this is like the King Arthur is the Christian man that would unite.
That's my own interpretation.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That was a big deal That was a big deal around the time, 7th. I don't know exactly the Arthurian legends. I want to say it's like the 7th century. But
I think it's when it first started popping up, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like that's there. But it would have already established itself pretty heavily at that point in time. So when this was written in like the 13th or 14th century, it's already going to be there. So then they can be like, see? Because one thing they love to do is create prophecy based off shit that's already happened. And they'd be like, see, it's already come true. So,
yeah.
It would make sense because, I mean, it all tracks for the Arthurian legends. And that would work. But in this version, in the Sola Patera, she's described as like, even though she's married, she's also Odin's concubine. You know?
Weird.
Yeah, so she's like she's like, you are the hottest of the hot.
Well, that's why I think there's like disagreement on scholars on whether or not she was also like Odin's wife or whatever. And it's just like, because there's like 8 different languages that are all talking about the same gods and goddesses, we end up with different pronunciations.
Correct. Yeah, it's just, there's no consistent narrative about it. It was definitely, this was a story that you could clearly tell. It's been lost to, translation. The source of 90% of our information is from a monk in the 13th century. He's gonna put their values in. So if the Norse were like super cool with having sex with everybody all the time, the Christians were not. So that's gonna be represented. It's a lot of hearsay and a lot of yes anding into a disjointed narrative. All we could figure out is that Freyja's hot. She cries money.
She really likes a necklace.
You could be swayed with jewelry.
Is often objectified or made the objective male deity's desires. Yeah.
It sounds like a drunken story of, if you could have seen her, you'd understand. And, an entire series of legends have been built around, man, if you were there and you could have seen her, you'd get it, But this disjointed series of stories is still one of the driving points of the more interesting of the Norse myths. I think that's it. I think that's all we got right now.
Yeah. I think that with that, we're probably going to get wrapped up here. Joel, I know we've talked about continuing this campaign through the Norse myths. What did we have left on the possible docket?
The next episode is, in my notes, I put it as Nalfagar, what the fuck? Because it's going to focus on all of the weird stuff that are in Norse myth.
Okay. And
Nalfagar, or Naglfar, is the ship made out of all the dead's toenails and hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
And among other things, there's all the other weird stuff.
Yeah, all the other weird stuff, like the beast that they cook for in Valhalla, where they kill it and cook it every single day. And it just resurrects at night. Like that, Thor's goats, like why it's cool that he has goats to pull his chariot and he also eats them.
Okay.
Like all the kind of like stranger stuff.
So basically it's the Norse mythology errata section.
Yeah. What the hell is going on with that one?
Well, I think
And then I don't know if you guys want, we could continue it to the 10 episodes, or we could stop and let Brendan nerd himself out on some Warhammer 40K.
I think at this point, I think we wrap up Norse myth with some like, here's some weird Norse myth stuff,
Like, I'm a little Norse mythed out.
Yeah, and then let's delve into the world of Warhammer 40K or fantasy if you want, Brendan.
Nope, let's stick with 40K. Let's only keep one line of weird for that one.
Very well.
'Cause,
It's the bigger property.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
well, I mean, if you're going to go with weird, 40K's fucking weird.
40K is, if you compare it to an ancient civilization, it would be Rome. It takes, if it finds something interesting.
I remember the armies of Nurgle in Rome when I was reading.
Not just visually from like the Ultramarines, but I mean every piece of interesting story from science fiction in the past 60 years, 40K has taken and amalgamated.
Mm-hmm.
So they've taken a little bit from Foundation for the Mechanicus. They've taken destroying AI from Dune. Psychers from Dune.
The episode starts in 2 weeks. Put your notes together because you're the one researching that.
Very well.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, we're gonna. So are we? Does that mean we're gonna start doing Warhammer next time?
No, not next time. We're gonna do after. We're gonna do the
Boat of hair and fingernails.
Okay.
Weird in Norse myth, like the stuff that you're like, why in the hell is that even a thing?
Okay.
And then, so not next. Not
Okay, you said in 2 weeks, so I was like, what?
Yeah. So 2 weeks from now will be our final. We might come back and visit some more Norse shit, but our final episode for the Norse stuff for the time being. And then in 4 weeks, we start a new section led by Mr. Mertens about Warhammer 40K.
All right. So with that, remember, catch our brand new D&D campaign on Thursday. But other than that, we'll see you again on Thursday. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you again then.